Sai Ram. Let us go down history to the time of the two world wars. India was preparing for its independence struggle to overthrow the colonial British rulers and become an independent nation. Among the several freedom fighters that the country gave birth to, let's take two of them. One, the father of the nation Mahatma Gandhi, and the other, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Though both these leaders had the same goal of achieving the Indian independence, the means they adopted were very, very different. Mahatma Gandhi ji was an ardent believer in ahimsa or non-violence. In fact, he was ready to call off the very successful non-cooperation movement also because of the violent incident at Chauri Chaura, which he thought would instigate further violence in the country. On the other hand, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose decided to adopt the method of a tooth for a tooth and an eye for an eye. He raised the Indian National Army and enlisted support from the Axis power Japan in order to overthrow the British. Gandhiji and Netaji responded based on their circumstances. But how do we find out whether the ends justify the means or the means justify the ends? Adhering to the means at any cost, even at the cost of forgetting the ends, is meaningless. It is like a road, a beautiful, fantastic, well-laid road that leads to nowhere. At the same time, trying to achieve the ends at any cost, no matter what the means, is hazardous and dangerous. It is like going to a beautiful, enchanted place via a road that is so treacherous and dangerous that we may ourselves not reach the destination. In short, the means without proper ends are useless and meaningless, but the ends without proper means are dangerous and hazardous. It is here that the experience of the Sai student Pushkaraj Gumaste comes handy in understanding this delicate balance between the means and the ends. So this episode happened in the early 1990s. Pushkaraj was a student in the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning and he stayed in the hostel at Prashantinilayam. The students in the hostel would come for Swami's darshan on a daily basis. And to ensure that every student gets an opportunity to sit in the front and interact with Swami, there is a discipline, a system that is enforced in the hostel. In his eagerness to be near and dear to Swami, Pushkaraj wanted to sit in the front on a daily basis, and therefore, along with a few other like-minded students, he found ways to circumnavigate the system, to cheat the system of lines, to somehow scam and bunk these lines and come ahead and sit in the front. These brave hearts, as they thought of themselves, enjoyed a good darshan daily, while all the other students would look at them with envy and even anger because they knew what they were doing was unethical. One day, as these students stood waiting outside the gate to enter the mandir, they saw that Swami was about to come out for darshan. And without a second thought, they all rushed in and sat right in the front of the interview room and enjoyed a lovely darshan session. However, as the darshan concluded, Swami looked at all of them and asked what these students were doing in the mandir when nobody else had come. Swami himself said, I know you have all come before the lines, right? Indisciplined boys. Look, I will put you in trouble today. Seeing the smile, the boys relaxed. They felt that Swami was joking. They enjoyed the joke. Swami went into the interview room and they continued to sit there. In a few minutes after that, all the students and the teachers from the hostel arrived, and some of the students were naturally dismayed to see the front spots already occupied by these scamsters. Suddenly, the interview room door slammed open. Out came Swami and he seemed furious. He asked, "Where is the warden? Call the warden." The warden came running to Swami. Swami said, "These boys are not following discipline. What kind of a warden are you? What kind of a control and check are you keeping on the students? Make sure that such things are not repeated." And he stormed back into the interview room. The warden looked at all these students, made a mental note to himself. A few minutes passed And once again, the interview room door opened. This time, it was noiseless. And from within, Swami peeked outside and called out to these 5 boys, beckoning them with his finger and telling them, "Come in." When they went inside, Swami shut the interview room door behind them, smiled at them and said, "See, I told you I will get you into trouble, right? I got you into trouble." Suddenly, Swami's demeanor became serious and he told all of them, "If you really have love for Swami, now come in the front and sit and show me." This proved to be very difficult for Pushkaraj because he was like a prisoner who had got caught while trying to break out of the prison, and now there was extra security and surveillance on him. After days and weeks of yearning and prayer and thinking, Pushkaraj finally came up with a plan. What he did was this. The students' hostel in Prashantinilayam houses more than 400 to 500 inmates, and it is natural that on a daily basis, someone or the other is sick, down with fever, cough, flu, or some injuries, a leg sprain, sports injuries, any of these. Pushkaraj volunteered to take these sick or injured students to the mandir on a bicycle. The sick and the injured were delighted at the prospects of being able to have darshan in spite of what they were suffering. The warden and teachers were happy that Pushkaraj had become service oriented, and as days turned to weeks, Pushkaraj also enjoyed this service. He felt that his Swami would be so happy with what he was doing. One day, there were 3-4 sick boys that had to be transported to the mandir. And on that day, the warden called Pushkaraj and told him that you can leave early because you have to transport multiple students. From that day onwards, Pushkaraj began to go to the mandir before the lines royally with the permission of the warden and teachers, and if Swami were to ask the warden why Pushkaraj had come front early, the answer would be, Swami, he is doing so much seva, he is doing service, and that's why he needs to come early. Now that is the story of how Pushkaraj achieved the challenge that Bhagawan had set out for him. If we look back at this episode and introspect, we will realize that while Pushkaraj had noble ends, the means he adopted to achieve those ends were not so noble. And that is why Swami had a problem with that. Can you adopt noble means to achieve your noble ends? And when Pushkaraj did it, Swami was so happy, he embraced him with open arms. It appears as if there is a dynamic equilibrium between the means and the ends, and each one influences the other. In the beginning, it is very, very important to have a noble and dharmic end as a goal, because without the ends, the means are meaningless. But once the ends have been determined and they are noble and dharmic, it becomes more important to ensure that the means are also dharmic, are also righteous. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.